Hi everyone, my name is Janice Parsons, and today we're going to do a project based on a pine cone inspiration. I went outside and I found some interesting pine cones and I used them to inspire the project. So let's begin. I want to show you first all the things that are involved, okay? So with starting with my pine cone, the first thing that I do is I'm going to look for my base. And I decided on a series of our 2mm silk strings, our skinny silk strings that are hand dyed. They're just lovely, and I think they're bringing out the different colors in the cones. Then I wanted to make sure I had some beads, and I'm bringing in beads that are in the colors of the cone, and also I wanted to bring in the green of the tree. Even though the tree isn't here, I wanted the memory of the necklace to include that. I then needed some cones that we're going to use to close off the end of it, and I thought that this particular cone, although we have a series of many, but this one is really nice because it's got a generous opening, and it also has a very nice sort of pine coney forest look. I picked out a toggle clasp that I think is large enough. It's not going to be overwhelming. And then I'm going to be working in threads. I don't need necessarily all of these, but I do like matching the thread as much as possible with the color of the string. The other thing that I wanted to bring in is I wanted to bring in some gemstones. I love the way these are shaded, graduated in shade. It reminds me also of the pine cone going from the dark in the center to the light in the tips. And this is a very lovely grossular garnet. I then also wanted to brighten it up with some metals, and we have these fabulous strands from Ethiopia, and so I started looking for the colors that are going to work with the different flavors. So it would be very easy when we're designing to think that we have to include everything, including the kitchen sink. And one of the skills as you become a better jewelry designer and artist and craftsperson is that you start to edit what you put in and make it speak with less rather than more. So I had all of these wonderful Ethiopian beads out, and when I was playing with it, I realized it was really getting too busy. So I started to look at what really spoke. Okay, so before I start to sew, the first thing I do, I call it sprinkling. I don't know if you sprinkle, but I sprinkle. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my teardrops, my princess drops. I just want to have some idea about how I want them to look, and so I'm sprinkling. And so I sprinkle, and wow, I really like that. And then I'm going to layer, and so I'll look at this and see, I love that. Look at that with that. And I like this with this too. So this is what I do first. Before I've even picked up a tool, I've done absolutely nothing but play. And so I'm looking at it and I'm going, not half bad. I am looking at this gold, and again, here's where the editing comes in, and I think I'm only going to use the gold singly, not doubly. I think it's just with the pine cone, I think if you notice, it's too much gold. And so I want just a little bit of that autumn gold in here. So now I'm ready to sew. Okay, so the way we begin is we're going to take a needle. Let me move all of this out of the way. We don't need this right now. We do need the princess tears. And I'm going to take this darkest rust color, and I matched it fairly well. It doesn't have to be perfect. I used the Nymo size D, but you could use almost any very fine thread, and I used the John James needles, and this was the thread. We sell it in all kinds of containers, and you can also purchase it loose. But this is great thread, and I took a minute with my old eyes to thread the needle, and then at the end I'm just going to put in a double overhand knot. So I make a loop, and I go through it once, and I go through it twice. And one of my students once said to me, "Oh, that's a surgeon's knot." I said, "Okay, there you are now. That's what I've been doing all these years." So then I tie it tight, make sure all the ends are even and the knot's nice and tight. I'm going to get rid of this tail later. I don't care about the tail. Okay, so starting about 2 inches from the end of the cord, you're going to take your needle and you're just going to kind of push it through and come up somewhere. If your thread matches, it's not going to really matter that much if you come out in a spot and you don't stay exactly inside the tube, but it's helpful if you do. So I'm just going to, you can almost close your eyes. You do not want to plan a pattern because that would not be natural. I put on one of the princess tiers, and then very close to where I went in, came out, I'm going back in again. And I'm going to go along, I'm sneaking along, and then I'm going to come out again. Now, do not be in such a hurry to rush with the Nymo because it likes to get kinked up. So just take your time, go slowly at first until you really learn your thread. Make sure that, like here, make sure you bring in all your ends and you don't leave one long. And now I'm going to come back again, and I'm going to put on another princess tier, and I'm going to come back in and thread along. So you can do this. This is all this is. You could do more than one at a time. You could do 2 together. But again, I'm making sure that my thread is coming all the way in. It can get caught around one of the tiers because of its shape. So just be patient and relax. So this is what it looks like, and I'm going to show you now the finished. I did it on 2 of the cords. Here's one of the cords I did. It's finished there, and here is the second cord. So I did it on 2 cords, and they're not spaced perfectly. It doesn't matter. Again, nature isn't perfect, so you don't have to be. I want to also show you another technique. This was using the grossular garnets and going in and coming out, and going in and coming out of the silk cord with some of the teardrops. And that's also an interesting look that I edited, and I decided it made my design too busy, so I enjoyed doing it, but I'm not using it in the final project. Okay, now I'm going to show you the next step. So the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to string on your Nymo using the needle your grossular garnets. And what's interesting is they come usually from India like this in a pattern. That doesn't mean you need to stick with this pattern. You could go all dark to light. You could separate them and make it a mix, however you want to do it. But you want to string approximately, because our necklace is going to be about 18 inches long, you want to string about 16 inches of a gemstone, and in this case it's the grossular garnet. So I'm going to teach you how to sew all your ends together. I've already done one side, and then this is going to get captured and put into our cone. But before we finish this on the other side, or even begin it, I want to make sure that we lay out the strands the way we want them. So I'm going to just lay them out and see. I'll start first with the metal because those are two different lengths, and the copper is the shortest, probably because in Ethiopia the copper is probably more expensive. Most of these beads that come from Ethiopia are made from hubcaps or old bicycle parts. They recycle everything and make beads with it. So if I use this halfway, because I'm not even restringing that. I need to tell you that. I'm not even restringing these beads because they're perfectly fine. This is a weekend project. I don't need to spend time restringing little tiny 12-aught seed beads. And then for all the individual cords, I put some knots in. Just, you know, it was kind of a last-minute thing that I decided to do. So this is where we're going. We're going to go to this point here with all of our strands, and that's where we're going to sew. So I'm going to lay down. It's sort of like putting out a platter of food. You know, you lay out the cheese and decide where you want everything. And on some of these, I may have actually put on beads further than I wanted to go, or not enough, and I might go back. Like here, I'm going to go back later and add a few more. But again, this is a very organic project, and you don't have to worry about, oh, well, I left some out. You can always add them in. So this is our point of where we're going to, and I'll show you with the tweezers. This is where I'm going to grab everything. This is going to come right in here, and we're going to grab the copper, and we have to grab the copper and the seeds, the silver beads, because they're already pre-strung, and I don't want to have to cut them and then I lose them. So in this case, I have it really long, and I may, in fact, I'm going to cut some of these off, I think, but that doesn't matter. And then I'm going to bring in, here's my thread with my garnets on it, and that is a good length, and that'll come in like about there. So they're all different lengths, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab them with my thread. So I have my thread that I'm going to do the wrap with. What you want to make sure is that there are certain things that are knotted off, that you have definitely knotted your gems off, because if you start sewing and there's no knot, they'll come loose. So you could just do an overhand knot like this, where it's a loop, very similar to pearl knotting. If what I'm doing right now scares you and you go, oh my God, I don't know how to do that, the other thing that you can do is you can just cut your needle off, and you can do a square knot, which is right over left, and then left over right. And I would definitely take a drop of glue. We use the Hypo-Tube cement. I would take a drop of glue, and I would put a little drop of glue right on that, because this is just one of those threads that you really do not want to see come loose. Okay? So, and then what I like to do is I'll put it on something like that to dry, because I don't want to see my nice yoga board, my bead board or my yoga mat ruined with glue. Okay, so now what we're going to do, I'm going to pretend this is dry, just like with the cooking show, and we're going to grab all of our materials, our copper, our heishi, silver, our gemstones. We're going to grab all of them and pinch them. And one last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to see now I lost the copper in that. I'm going to look at everything before I start, and I'm going to see if I like it or not. And I'm going to adjust all of them the way I want them. Takes a little bit of patience. That's pretty good. This one gray one is too long, so I'm going to just pull it out and then put it back up and then take a look at it again. It looks pretty good to me. I like that the copper is shorter. I like some of them that are longer. This one may be a little too long, so again, I can pull it out and I'm going to put it back up in there. It's a little long. And then take a look at it. It looks pretty good to me. Okay, so now I've got all of my cords and beads all together. I have a needle with some thread, and it's a little bit like a trust exercise. You're just going to start going through, and you just come through with your needle and your thread, and then what I want you to do is I want you to then take it and wrap a couple times. What I'm going to do to make life easy, you're going to probably go, ah, is I'm just going to cut all of these. I don't need them. I'm even cutting the one that has more of beads on it. I don't need it. I'm done with those. You just don't want to cut your heishi beads, your little seed beads. So I'm going through these, and then I'm going to wrap a couple of times, nice and tight, and then I'm going to go through again. And I want to make sure you can see this. And then I'm wrapping again, nice and tight, around a couple of times. And then now I'm a little more methodical. I'm actually going to go through, wrap again, and I'm actually going to make sure that I'm going to go through each colored cord, and I'm going to make sure that I grab all of them. Wrap again, and I come around here. I'm going to go through like this. And so you're going to continue to do this until you've gone all the way around and you've captured all of your materials, your beads, your cords, everything. And when you're done, you're going to check that each one is actually been captured. So I want to make sure this is nice and tight. I don't want any of these loose cords. If you do have a couple of loose cords like I do here, actually no biggie, because when we're done we're going to glue all this and you're not going to even know it. It's a very forgiving project. One of the important things about a weekend project is that we relax. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back and I'm going to pull on each one, and I'm going to make sure, and I'm not holding this really tight, I'm just making sure that each one of these, especially your beads, that they're all captured. Okay, and then now to end it, I'm going to come through I'm going to do an overhand knot, so I come through anywhere, it doesn't really matter. It looks messy, but you're not going to see any of this. I come through the knot, so I'm bringing it through. Then I'm going to come through to the other side. I'm going to do another overhand knot. I don't know what this guy's doing there. He doesn't want to join with his friends. You're going to have to. I'm going to do another overhand knot. It gets a little twisty, but basically this is a loop, and I'm just going to go through this loop. See it? And then to finish this off, I'm just going to take my needle and I'm going to go through once. Get out of there, little guy. Once, and then just bring it through again. I haven't done any knotting. I'm just bringing it through. And then I am just going to leave it like that. I'm going to come in here now with my glue, and it's really your choice which you want to use. You can use the Hypotube cement, which is, we use this for bead stringing, or you could also use the fabric cement. Either one, they're just a little different, but they both do the same trick. And now I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to cover all of this thread on both sides until I get it nice and covered and confident that I'm gluing everything. And then I flip it over. That guy really doesn't want to leave the group. And then I do this side. I hope everyone can see this. And then when this is all, when you really feel, oh, I have enough glue, add a little more on. Okay? And then when you're done with that, you're going to let this dry. Go back, check the other side, make sure that's covered. And then what you're going to do is you're going to let that dry completely. I'd say at least an hour. And then, just like the cooking show, what you're going to do is with a very sharp wire cutter, you're going to cut off everything, except you're not going to cut, if you have like a loop of beads, you're not going to cut these. You're just going to come back and cut your threads. As short as you can and as close to this. It's really secure. I'm doing it while it's wet, but I'd prefer you do it when it's dry. I can actually leave those. And then this, when we're done, is going to all fit inside this lovely cone, and you're not going to see any of it. So that's this part, okay? And now let's take a break and let that dry. To the pine cone, but more importantly, what speaks to me. And I found that I love the darkened silver. I love the copper. The copper picks up all of the flavors of the grossular garnet and the pine cone. The bronze, or actually the brass, is really pretty, but it's very sort of, I think, ordinary. So I took that out, and I obviously, for me at least, obviously, I took out the bright silver because I didn't feel it really spoke to me about autumn. So I have my ingredients now. I've got my beads, my garnets, I've got my beautiful little princess tears in the autumn tones. I have my metal beads. I have some thread that I'm going to use to show you how I sew beads on and tie the ends. And I have my lovely inspiration, Mr. Pinecone, there. So let's go to our sewing beads and begin the project of building it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to actually add the cones on the end. And for this I like to be a little generous with myself. So I like 2.5 to 3 inches of wire. I'd rather you have a little more than a little less. There's nothing worse in life than not having enough. So you need about 3 inches. And what you're going to do is you're going to, what I call coming through the legs. I know that may sound a little strange, but what you're going to do is you're going to open up, come in, try to do it as evenly as possible so you have half on one side and half on the other. And then you've got your knot up here, and all you're going to do with your hands, with one end just long enough so that it's about half an inch past the knot, you're going to pinch them together like this. And again, you're going to look at your cone and go, okay, I still have enough wire up here in order to wrap. And then you're going to take your pliers, you pinch it together. Now, you're not going to see any of this, but you're going to take another wire, another plier, and you're just going to wrap this around. Now, I'm using bent chain nose, but you could use just about anything. Needle nose, chain nose. And again, it's not going to be pretty. It doesn't have to be pretty. I like it to be pretty because just every part of it should look nice, but you don't have to. The most important part in this whole discussion or part of the project is that when the cone goes over and you put right there, that all of this is covered. If for some reason you put your cone on and you go, oh, look at that much is showing, I don't like that, a trick that you can do is you can come back out here and you can condense this down. This may be a little too long, and so if you twist it, that might help. That'll maybe make it shorter. Don't twist it too much because you'll weaken the wire, or you flatten this down. But if your cone is not working, it's either too short or all of the threads and your wire wrap is too long, and so it's not containing it all. And this looks really lovely. Just like that, it comes down. Now, one of the things I did, I'm sorry I left out of the project list, which I'll put in, is you need a round bead to just put above your cone so that when you do your wire wrap, you don't have to worry about your wrap slipping inside the opening of the cone. And then to do the wire wrap, everyone does it differently. I use the very fine points of my round nose pliers, and I bend it back and I rotate my plier up a quarter turn, I bring it over and down, rotate it back another quarter turn, and then I bring it down and across. And what I've made here is I've made the eye for the loop. And I'm going to just open that up like a kickstand towards me, like that. And now before I do anything, many times toggles like this come already connected. And so I'm going to open this one up. So now when you find your seam, you open them sideways, take it apart, and then close it back up. And some jump rings, they say you hear the click. I have yet to hear the click. I just like to visually just make it nice and tight seal. Okay, so I'm going to put the bar on this side. Another little thing to take into consideration is if you have a pendant or something that makes one side of the necklace right, you know, like there's a front, then you want the toggle to be on the right side, right-handed. What I mean by that is that most jewelry that we buy in stores or by craftspeople or jewelry artists are for right-handed people. And the bar is the part that you use your dominant hand to work. So unless you're making it for a lefty, this would go on the right side. So now we've put the toggle bar onto the eye through the loop. We're going to grab the eye, or the head I like to call it, and then we're going to, I'm just going to change hands, and then I'm going to take the very end of this and I'm going to wrap it around towards that bead. And as I wrap, I pick it up and I let go. If I don't let go and I keep wrapping, I wrap the wire right around my plier, and we don't have enough wire to waste. So I keep wrapping until this bead gets nice and tight. It can't move anymore. And then I'll come with my bent chain nose, and I'll just kind of gently, I can't get it from that angle, but I can from this angle just a little bit. And then I'm going to take my flush cutters, I'm going to come in real close. Now watch, I cover it with my finger because I don't want it flying towards me. And then I come in, and in the direction that the wire was being wrapped, I take my bent chain nose and I just tuck it in. And I have a beautifully finished end, at least in my opinion, we do. Now on the other side, I started this, and I wanted to show you, it's a little bit of a hodgepodge. You can see one's long, one's short, but I folded the wires over. I don't have to come as high as everything because this is going to get smushed down inside the cone. This will get smushed down. So what I'm going to do on this side, it's not going to be as pretty as the first side. I'm going to just hold this, and then I'm going to take this and I'm just going to wrap it around. I want to show you that you can do this even if it doesn't look pretty, and it'll work. So I'm wrapping this around a few times. And if you ever repair someone's necklace that's been store-bought, oftentimes this is what it looks like inside when the cone, the cone falls off and you have to restring one strand. You'll find that it's just sort of a mess like this. But it works. As long as it's wrapped around securely, it's going to work. And now I'm going to put the cone over, and I'm going to put all of these things inside. I'm going to pull the cone down, and everything is going to be covered. I have a few threads here that I missed cutting, so I'm just going to cut those off very carefully with the flush cutters. And I want to add one of my little signature tags on here. So I'm just picking different beads. They don't have to be the same. Doesn't have to be the same metal. I'm using my silver tag. There are lots of places you can get your tags made. Unfortunately, you have to order like 1,000. So you need to be confident you're going to use them, but I think they're fun to have. So again, to wire wrap, I'm going to take my pointy ends of my fine tip round nose pliers. I'm going to put it right above the last bead. I'm going to bend it back halfway so I get a nice right angle. So my pliers went from this. I call this riding a bicycle, to going like this, which is holding a garden hose. Now I'm going to wrap the wire over and down, and I'm going to rotate the plier back to the bicycle, and now I'm going to bring it under. All right, and I can open it up just a little bit. So I'm going to open that eye up a little bit. I'm going to put on my toggle, and I want it to, see it's on the back side. Well, I'm going to take it off, and I'm going to put it so that when it's displayed with my tag, I'm getting the hammered side up as well as the design of my little tag. Now I'm going to hold this again with the pointy tips, change hands, and then I'm going to wire wrap towards the cone. I wrap and let go. I pick up again, wrap over and let go, wrap under, let go. I'd like a penny for every time I've said that teaching. And then that's about as far as I need to go. I'm going to take my flush cutters, put my finger over it. I'm going to come back with my bent chain nose and just ever so gently tuck my tail in. I always check when I'm done that I cannot feel the tail sticking out. I don't want any kind of like thing to pinch. And then I'm just going to loosen this a little bit. It got stuck in there with maybe a little bit of the glue. And we have now our finished project. So now this is what it looks like finished on Brittany. It's organic. Again, like nature, it's not going to lay perfectly. If you want it to, you take a little more time, make sure they're all the same length. And why don't you just turn around, Britt, and let's just show the back, how pretty that looks. Your cones, your cords, your gemstones, it's all there. The perfect nature inspiration. And I hope you enjoy having fun doing it. Have a friend come over and make it your weekend project. Thanks so much. Take care.